guys, welcome back to day 2 of Alliance Tournament 14 with Suetonia, Rockedex and myself, Apothny, here for a match between CVA, Kurataris Veritatis Alliance and COF Alliance. Now these two teams have so far, we've had CVA beat Losecnea Shalupin and lose the culture, resulting in Jin's choice of headwear today. We had COF lose to Circle of Two and then beat Psychotic Tendencies. Now, interestingly, in their last match, the two teams brought armor and shield versions of pretty much exactly the same setup. We had CVA bring the double TFI, EOS and Neros core that we're very used to seeing, supported by 2 Svipples, a Confessor, a Kitsune and 2 Purifiers. On the other hand, we had COF bring 2 Scorpion Navies, a Claymore, a Scimitar, so effectively that same core, with 2 Svipples and a Jackdaw, just swapping out the Confessor for a Jackdaw there, Kitsune as well for a bit of ECM support, and then a Purifier and a Hound, so 2 bombers. What do you think it is about this setup distribution that is so strong that we're seeing so many teams perform one variant of it, where you have a heavy battleship core, command ship for links, T2 logistics, T3Ds, and then bombers with maybe a little flavour ECM there. Suetonia, what do you think about that setup as a style?
I just think it's a very strong setup. It's tried and tested. It's what the meta basically was in AT13 for a long time. So yeah, I just think it's really strong. You get a lot of decent support. You've got a Tech 2 logistics, you've got links, and you've got just battleships with rep drones as well as decent projection. You know, Typhoon fleet issues with rapid heavies, and the Scorpion Navy issues as well with cruise missiles or rapid heavies if they choose, just have such a huge projection range too. They're just really good at just dealing with a lot of different things. Sort of like a really generalist setup.
It's just a very good baseline actually for the tournament. It's kind of like the setup that you test all your other setups against when you're practicing and you know, training for the tournament. One thing that's going to be interesting, however, is when you're going for a setup like this and you're using it as a baseline, you do need to find a way to beat it as well if you're going to use it in the tournament. The moment you play something, you then have to consider that someone else might use the same setup against you. They will immediately go and test it and find its weaknesses. So you have to find a way to beat that. So what this match, I think, is going to come down to is which of those teams has been better prepared to do that. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, do you guys have any preference for the shield or armor versions? I mean, going back to what we discussed a little earlier, what do you think the inherent strengths of shield or armor are against each other? Armor potentially with open widths, shield more damage? Is that something you think of, or are there other main differences?
Well, I think really it depends how they play the fight. With a shield kind of setup, you have to rely on range and kiting, because if you go toe-to-toe with an armor setup, you might find that you're going to lose because you just don't have the control. You will get controlled. So I think really if you're in the armor side of this, you have to rush in and you have to go for it early in the fight. Otherwise, you're going to get kited and you're going to get picked off.
What do you think, Suetonia?
Yeah, the armor setup definitely has more of an advantage when it comes to control. I think they have more spare mid slots to fit sensor boosters or ECM, tracking disruptors, guidance, missile guidance disruptors, those kind of things. Whereas a shield setup just gets a lot more damage on the field. You can just go like 3 ballistic control units, damage control and extras without sacrificing tank like you have to on the armor setup.
I think back in February we had the introduced change to the game that were skill injectors. Now, from that, we know that the Alliance tournament is a place where you want characters that have perfect skill points for the ships you want to fly. So if you're flying a tactical destroyer, you want tactical destroyers 5. You want even the specializations in the T2 guns to 5. Do you guys think that the introduction of skill injectors has leveled the playing field for teams who may have the bank, but not necessarily the characters to put into the tournament, and perhaps even the playing field for some of the older teams with some of the older characters that already have had the time to garner that many skill points? I mean, my own Apothny main character has only just hit 90 million skill points, and I can fly frigates in the Alliance tournament to the level that PL require.
Well, I think really players that have that kind of resource in terms of what they have backing them, they'll have already either bought characters to do it. I know a lot of people have bought characters specifically to play in tournaments. We saw that quite a bit with the Amar Championships as well. I know a few people who bought characters to do that. Maybe, but you're always going to have people that in largest groups that are going to be able to fly those ships that will be maxed out. I don't really think skill injectors would have played a major role in that. Maybe a bit, opens people up, maybe a bit more flexible, so you have more options in terms of who you're going to pick to fly what ship. I don't really think it's going to change the balance in meta between teams, though.
Suetonia, moving forward, we've got some big changes to the game coming through in November. One of which is the links changes, the boost changes that I know that you, for example, are very excited to see come through, potentially with a nerf to evasive maneuvering. What do you think? What effect do you think this is going to play on the Alliance tournament meta? Assuming they say at approximately the same strength as what they're being posted to now, what the changes are going to be. Do you think the fact that once you kill a command ship currently, the links stop and are gone, versus the buff effect that may last, 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, depending on when the numbers come out. Do you think that the changes are going to have a significant effect on tournament play and how the new modules are going to work?
Yeah, it will as well. Another big thing with the proposed changes is going to be sort of scripts and ammo system for links. Right now, you have to choose between bringing evasive maneuvers and interdiction maneuvers, for example, the sig reduction or the scram and web range. But now you would be able to swap them out in the match even. So you can pick the one that's best suited for the current situation, which will be really good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing is as well that the way they're planning to do links with some kind of an area of effect, almost like the burst projectors you have on super capitals, you have to aim it, fire it, and then get it within range of your fleet. That's going to be something that like links pilots and people who've got leadership characters are going to have to deal with now, on top of everything else in the tournament. And as we were saying earlier, you tend to get a lot of utility on command ships with their mid slots, and then maybe a little damage from the highs or rep bots for drones. So they're going to have a lot to think about, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that if you're running, for example, Kitsunes in your team, which we see very popular this year, if you're running info links to boost their strength and range of their jams, usually what Kitsunes do is they run away as far away they can from the fight, just stay safe and apply their E-War effects. When their boost runs out, they're going to have to dive back in, potentially dangerously close to their command ship in order to get those links reapplied. So it might be a decision of, do I go in and risk myself and get the boost, or do I stay back and have my ECM be less effective, but still applied without the risk of me dying? I think that's going to be a very interesting decision that we see pilots face next year in Alliance Tournament 15. However, before Alliance Tournament 15, we need to keep our minds on Alliance Tournament 14, as we have this final match for the first half coming up. It's going to be COF versus Curatores Veritatis Alliance, coming at you right now.
Hello, I'm Moderator, and I'm going to be joined by Chocolate Rain bringing you this next match between CVA and COF Alliance. Rain, walk us down the CVA team.
So CVA has brought a Bargas, a Nighthawk, a Simi, double Serb, Hyena, Kitsune, double Caracal, and a Merlin.
Then on the COF side, they've brought a Palgorn and Eos, or Neros, a pair of sacrileges, a Hecate, two Spiples, a Hound, and a Crucifier.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see this. So if you notice, they've all kind of warped in like kind of a 90-degree angle, but also at like different heights. So it looks like CVA actually warped pretty staggered, and then COF Alliance actually warped in all together.
Yeah, CVA with their Cerberuses and Curricles are going to be looking to pick apart the Swiples and the Hound, as well as the Crucifier. Just get rid of support and then keep at range. It'll be interesting to see if they're actually able to do that as the match starts now.
Yeah, so these double Caracal and these double serves on the CVA side will be crucial in taking out the support wing of COF. And if they can do that, then all they have left are I want to say the larger ships, so the Sacrilege, the Balgorn, the double Sacrilege and the Balgorn, and then this Eos, and that honestly shouldn't take too much time, especially when they don't have the support. And
Okay, so
with that,
crucially, the COF Alliance Crucifier is down. He guessed correctly, and he fit missile guidance disruptors to what were the Barghest and the Cerberus. With those out of the way, both those ships are going to be able to apply their damage nearly perfectly.
yeah, and so CVA actually also has the Hyena to help with the target painter, and then also support with the web. So even if these smaller ships try to mitigate the damage, like the Hecate, for example, that's now being primaried, the target painter will only allow those missiles to apply better.
Now the Balgorn's been webbed by what appears to be the Hyena on the CVA side, just trying to keep the Balgorn out of the range of webbing or nuding down any of the primary CVA heavy ships.
Yeah, and so they do have the Oneros and the Simi, so they both have T2 cruiser logi, which should be helpful in keeping these teams alive, but the Oneros isn't able to actually really keep the support wing of COF alive. Like the Sweeple, for example, is now deep into armor, and he's going to be going into structure soon, and does not look like he's catching reps very quickly. Oh, so I stand corrected. He actually caught a bunch of reps and is now almost back at half.
Yeah, so far the COF Alliance Sacrileges have been able to ram into Dead Duck in one of the Cerberuses. So he has been pinned down and is going to likely be the primary for COF.
And it does look like they're shooting at him, although the Simi reps are at least keeping him alive. They're also starting to shoot at this Barghest. I'm not quite sure what COF is doing. I'm not quite sure who they're primarying. I see 3 people taking damage, and the Simi seems to be keeping them all up.
Yeah, but we can see that both the control bars for CVA and COF are fairly high up there. COF losing a Swipel now, as the Cerberuses and the Caracals had just then come off of the reload on their rapid light launchers, now able to put their next clip into Montivo in the Swipel.
Yeah, so something else interesting to note is that CVA does have a Kitsune, which is the ECM jams. And it does look like he is attempting to jam the Sacrilege Hound and the Sweeple before it died, but it also doesn't look like he's attempting at all to jam this Oneros.
I want to point something on the CVA side. This CVA Merlin has been an absolute hero. He's on top of the Balgorn at 0 kilometers, and so far he's been able to scram and web him. He's being nosed now, but this Merlin, right, a 2-point Tech 1 frigate, is completely able to lock down a faction battleship. CVA playing this excellently, screening off the exact targets that they need to keep their team alive.
Yeah, and with COF actually losing their whole support wing except this Oneros, there's not much really they can do. I mean, the Oneros is starting to take damage. Not quite sure if he has a local rep or if they have rep bots on him. It does not look like they even have rep bots on him, so hopefully he maybe has a local rep to keep himself alive, or is able to somehow mitigate this damage, but he's both webbed and target painted, so they're going to be able to apply pretty well to him.
You can see that CVA is just kind of on this cone arc away from the COF Alliance. They're completely surrounding them, able to screen out any targets that try to burn away, while this Hyena is expertly painting and webbing this Oneros. CVA is playing this nearly perfectly, I would say.
Yeah, and I think poor COF Alliance is caught out. I'm not quite sure what they could have done better. I don't know how they could have, I would say, get away from this Cerberus and Caracal damage, especially with their destroyers and frigates. I was gonna say I don't really know how they could have done better in this. Maybe a little more piloting. I'm not sure. With that, though, Oneros is down.
Yeah, unfortunately, the only target that COF was ever able to get on top of was Dead Duck, who made a rather major misplay, getting caught out, and will then not be able to fire his rapid lights from death. But on the whole, CVA playing this rather well. They're just keeping at range, picking apart the Oneros, and with that, none of the Sacrileges are going to be able to keep reps on. So Balgorn still completely tackled by this Merlin. So COF, for whatever reason, not putting any damage on that Merlin at all. You can see a cloud of Hornet EC300s on top of this Balgorn. Balgorn's now completely irrelevant in this fight. So with that, Sacrilege is dropping into low armor, and everything on COF side is jammed out.
Yeah, and I think this Kitsune actually made some pretty smart plays, like similar to the other team where they had the Blackbirds all on the Logi, and it made sense. This one, it didn't look like they attempted to jam this Oneros at all, and I think it's because they knew that the Oneros wouldn't even be able to apply reps on these poor little frigates and T3Ds, and so he decided to play it smartly and not even worry about the Oneros at all getting jammed, and just jam out everyone else. And it turned out it worked really well for him.
Yeah, CVA now painting the Sacrilege to apply maximum damage with missiles, and he'll be now falling into about half armor. So, Rain, how do you feel about taking a Nighthawk as opposed to something like either a Sleipnir or, say, a Claymore?
I'm not quite sure. I wonder if they took a Nighthawk, whether it's because like they just liked the Drake model or they liked how it looked. But I think we've seen the Claymore more, and the Sleipnir especially. Sleipnir has been super popular, so I'm not quite sure why a Nighthawk over either of those. Although it worked well for them.
I suspect that they were going to try to use the Nighthawk as a heavy tackle. It's like a Drake that already has a resist bonus, but you give it more resist, right? As opposed to the Claymore and the Sleipnir that have an active tanking bonus. So CVA relying on their Logistics Scimitar and Patrick to actually keep that up. Luckily for them, they were never actually tested, but I really would have liked to see if CVA could bring a variant of the setup, but with an artillery Sleipnir, then augmented by the rapid damage of Cerberuses and Caracals. With that, you could even shut down frigates harder than they already have, but looks like things are playing out just fine for CVA as this Balgorn is dripping into low armor.
Yeah, and I think they're trying to shoot this Caracal as like a last-ditch effort to claim any sort of points on the board, but I mean, with COF losing this, they're going to be dropped out of the Alliance tournament now, since this is a loser's bracket.
Yeah, it looks like you can see that COF is coughing a bit too hard and now choking in this match.
Yep, and so now they're just looting the field. CVA is just trying to plink away at this Balgorn, and then eventually the EOS, which I assumed has probably the better tank. And I'm guessing they're going to be looting the field now, especially since they've been shooting from range. Bad props to, like you said earlier, this Merlin and this Kitsune. I think they both did pretty well. A lot of people really underestimate what a T1 frigate can do, or I guess the Kitsune's T2. A lot of people really underestimate what T1 frigates can do, and I think this kind of shows that.
Yeah, so next CVA is going to be looking to play either the winner of... Well, they're going to be playing Vita or Loda in their next match. I'm going to be very excited to see how that plays out. Be a rather challenging match for them.
Yeah, Vitra's actually really, really entertaining to watch. I believe they lost to Exodus, but even so, we saw them last match pull out a really well executed playstyle tournament. So I have high hopes for them, even though they are in the losers bracket.
Yeah, a lot of heroic stories to be shown in the lower bracket right here on Event TV.
So we have a minute 30 left, and this EOS is now taking damage. They finally got the Balgorn. Spamming good fights in local, good sportsmanship.
They're just trying to nuke out the EOS, shut down any sort of links or active harmers, or you would have to self-tank and possibly kill it in the next minute and 15.
Yeah, great work. Great work by CVA, mad props. I think all they lost was one Cerberus, and conveniently the guy's name is Dead Duck, and so living up to that,